Okay. So to continue with our discussion, as what I have mentioned, we are considering the tocolytic as one as a therapy actually to prevent the or rather to decrease the uterine muscle contraction, kasi if it will continue uterine muscle contraction, this may cause the possibility of increased uterine pressure and may possibly cause bleeding, or possibly may cause to expel what is inside the uterus. So this happens 20 to 37 weeks. Ngayon, what are the goals of the tocolytic therapy? It's definitely to interrupt and inhibit uterine contraction, kasi again, it may cause the possibility of premature delivery, which is on the second delay delivery. So kung hindi man mag-cause ng possibility na hindi ma-delay yung delivery, it may continuously be given at ma-lead into premature delivery. The patient will be receiving corticosteroids. And ang corticosteroids are very essential, specifically to promote surfactant to consider po yung maturity ng lungs of the baby para for survival. So usually you will prepare betamethasone. And kung for example, if the mother, the pregnant mother who's experiencing premature or preterm labor, will be transported to the hospital. So tocolytics are very important for the safe transport. Now, what are those drugs that definitely decreases uterine muscle contractility? Um, I have usually encountered this drug, terbutaline. Actually, ang terbutaline po ay a drug that are beta 2 receptor drug. Okay, pag sinabi nating beta 2 receptor, similar as for beta 2 that increases the heart rate at nagkokos ng opening of the bronchial smooth muscles. Ang effect niya po sa uterus po ng stimulation ng beta 2 ay nagkokos din siya ng relaxation ng uterine muscle. Okay? However, kaya po siya category C kasi dahil kung beta 2 siya, this may cause the possibility din po na may effect or sympathetic effect ito sa fetus. So that's why we need to take into consideration din po ang monitoring of the heart rate of the mother and the fetal heart rate. So that's why it's category C. Okay? Next po, a drug that may possibly decrease uterine muscle contractility is magnesium sulfate. However, the concern with this is that of we have category D. It is category D. Ano ibig sabihin ng category D? Ang category D po ay pwedeng may positive evidence na po siya na pwedeng mag-cause ng adverse reaction. Kaya that's why category D. So nalalaman ninyo ngayon when it enumerates po yung mga drugs that may decrease uterine muscle contractility, alam na natin yung mga drugs that may definitely be prioritized as drug of choice, at least of choice, kasi biased from the category A and B. Ngayon, very important for magnesium sulfate na once a doctor prescribe this, please check the deep tendon reflexes. Why? Pag walang deep tendon, if you cannot assess deep tendon reflexes, this may cause toxic effect on paralysis. Okay? At kung nagmanifest naman po specifically ang toxic level or toxicity, the antidote for magnesium sulfate is calcium gluconate. Okay? Calcium gluconate. Ngayon, magnesium sulfate is contraindicated sa myasthenia gravis. Ang myasthenia gravis po ay isang nerve disorder na mainly may affect specific nerve responses. Kaya pag ang patient mo may myasthenia gravis, magnesium sulfate is contraindicated. Second, you need to check is deep tendon reflexes. At another is pag naglumabas ang toxic effect nito ay calcium gluconate is the antidote. So next po is ito po, the other uterine relaxants or tocolytics. Other than magnesium sulfate or terbutane, so this is terbutaline, pwede rin po ang indomethacin at nifedipine. So it may depend on the obstetrician to consider po. Next, Sa preterm labor naman, for example, ayun na nga, 24 to 34 weeks. 24 to 34 weeks, nag-continuous po ang contraction and even tocolytics are being given. We must consider na po the antenatal corticosteroid therapy para mag-prevent po to sa respiratory distress syndrome ng preterm infants. Kasi nga, decrease ang surfactant, so it may cause na the problem with the expansion of the lungs. So, betamethasone. So, bakit sa category C? So, if it is given to the mother, prior to delivery, magsi-circulate pa yan sa magsi-circulate pa yan to be absorbed sa body before may consider po ng effect sa infant. However, the most important in this perspective is the betamethasone is the drug of choice that will prevent respiratory distress syndrome. So, kung wala namang betamethasone, dexamethasone could be an alternative. Pero shorter ang half-life niya. So, betamethasone pa rin is the choice. Pero alternative lang po ang dexamethasone. So, next po, let's have the self-assessment exercises. Okay? So, sa self-assessment exercises natin, a patient in her first trimester pregnancy calls the nurse to ask for suggestions on decreasing nausea and vomiting in the morning when she wakes. Which of the following non-pharmacologic measures are used to decrease nausea and vomiting except po ha, except eating crackers, dry toast, or other carbohydrates before rising, eating small frequent feedings or meals, eating high protein at bedtime snack, and letter D, eating high fat or seasoned foods. Which of the following is not a non-pharmacologic measures to decrease nausea and vomiting? So, tingnan natin nga if others can respond to this. So, hoping others are also listening, pero I may reveal the answers already because of the lack of time and our constraint with our platform. But anyway, ayan, for some who are responding, tignan po natin. Ayan. So, yung letter A, reveal na natin yung sagot. Yung letter A, letter B, letter C are the non-pharmacologic measures. Why letter D is not? Kasi seasoned foods. Okay, seasoned foods may cause or may trigger hydrochloric acid production. High fat, the more, since insoluble ang fats, the longer that it will synthesize fats, the higher chances po na mag-stimulate ang secretion ng hydrochloric acid. So, pwedeng mag-trigger siya sa nausea and vomiting. Next question po. A patient is complaining of continued constipation. Ngayon, after non-pharmacological treatment, which was the following first treatment for constipation during pregnancy? I know that I have not mentioned this during the discussion. However, ang isa po sa kino-consider po natin dito ay kung halimbawa po ang pinaka-safe. Okay, all of this could be a choice for drugs or laxatives sa constipation. Pero isa dito ang first line treatment. And the three is pwedeng mag-trigger din kasi basically po sa uterine contractions. Okay? So, I will reveal the answer. Ang answer po dito, tandaan po ninyo ay docusate sodium. If the mother is constipated, the one that is advisable po ay docusate sodium. The rest po, letter B, letter C, and letter D, these are the ones that are laxatives that may trigger po uterine contractions. Next question. Next question is, the nurse is teaching pregnant patient how to decrease gastrointestinal distress. Kasi alam naman natin, when we mention about the intake of vitamins, right? Nagkakos siya ng gastric upset, pwede mag-nausea, pwede mag-vitamins. The nurse instruct the patient to do what? Okay? Is it take her vitamins between meals? Eat when she takes her vitamins? Drink orange juice when she takes her vitamins? And letter D, drink milk when she takes her vitamins. Okay. Again, most, as we discussed before, na ang milk ay definitely may trigger decrease in absorption. So, hindi letter D yan. Hindi yan letter D, ha? Next, orange juice. So, depende nga ito kung orange juice ito na artificial or orange juice ito na natural orange juice. Pero whatever it is, Ang problem kasi din dito ay pwedeng mag-cause ng trigger po sa hydrochloric acid. So tignan natin anong sagot. The answer is letter B. Okay? Eat when she takes her vitamins. Kasi empty stomach mo iti-take, then to follow mo agad yung food. Kasi so that once napaprocess yung breakdown ng vitamins, susunod yung food. Pag letter A is the answer, take her vitamins between meals, this may trigger possibly yung empty stomach na mag-trigger din sa increased hydrochloric acid. So the answer is letter B. Next question. The nurse at an infertility clinic is working a preconceptional couple. The nurse advised a woman to take which supplement for at least 3 months before becoming pregnant. Is it letter A, iron, letter B, ginger, letter C, folic acid, or letter D, vitamin B6? Okay? Wala pong sasagot ng ginger ha. Kontrahin ko na yung ginger. Okay? Kasama yan ng mga family ng ginkgo biloba, yung mga root, ano yan ha, hindi pwede. So that may cause a possibility po na mag-trigger sa platelet, mag-trigger po sa bleeding. Yan, medyo careful po tayo diyan. So, since we're talking about prior, ang iron po ay tinitake ng kailan? Usually ang iron po ay tinitake, this is usually at the start of the third trimester kasi doon nag-i-start ang iron deficiency anemia. So it's either letter C or letter D. Tignan natin. So the answer is folic acid. Okay? Folic acid is the answer that is given 3 months or prior to the conception or preconception or 2 to 3 months po na iti-take ito. Okay? 3 months of pregnancy. So next question. A primary gravida patient, 8 gestational weeks, is at the prenatal clinic for first examination. She complains about nausea and vomiting every morning. Which comment made by the patient would indicate the need for further instruction? Okay. So alin dito yung dapat alarming sa nurse na dapat bigyan pa ng further instruction? My friend gave me ginger cookies to eat. I have been eating dry crackers before I get up. I have tried to avoid foods with strong smells. I have been drinking chamomile tea every day. Okay? Alin kaya dito specifically ang kailangan ng need for further instruction ng nurse? So, hoping everyone are thinking, kasi yung letter B, dry crackers are basically what? Dry crackers are basically an advice. Okay? Next. Avoid foods with strong smells kasi pwedeng mag-trigger sa nausea. So it's either letter A or letter D. Which of the two kaya? Which of the two kaya? O sige, tignan natin ha. Ganito po. Tandaan po ninyo, hindi naman siya between ginger cookies at chamomile tea, alin dito yung may na direct yung ingredient at isa yung talagang concentrated. Okay? Indirect yung ingredient, yung isa concentrated. The more concentrated po kasi, the higher chances po na mag-trigger dun sa situation ng patient. So, my friend gave me ginger cookies. So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya, it's mixed with other ingredients. So, the answer is, I've been drinking chamomile tea. Remember po, most teas, ginger, yung mga usually mga pinapakuluan na yan ay somehow ina-avoid po natin sa mga pregnant mothers. Okay? So, ito po direct yung concentrated yung ano, rather than the ginger cookies na hindi naman siya direct as concentrated as from the ingredients po. Okay. So para ma-clarify po dito kasi may mga questions po na ganito sa board exam na natitrigger, ay may ginger, yun agad. Hindi, di ba? So, yun po, pag concentrated po na talagang pinakuluan, directly iinumin siya. So that is most considered lalo ni mga ginkgo biloba. So next po, pasok na po tayo sa mga situations ng may hypertension. Okay. Sabi ko nga po sa inyo, when the patient experiences high blood pressure during pregnancy, ang tawag diyan ay gestational hypertension. Okay? So, but you can it's only elevated blood pressure, Pero meron siya, pag wala siyang proteinuria, ibig sabihin there are no findings of protein sa urine, at elevated yung blood pressure mo, 20 gestational weeks, gestational hypertension yon. Before it was called as pregnancy-induced hypertension. Pero ano naman po yung tawag? Kasi usually, 10 to 20% po, as based from studies po, ang nakaka-experience ng hypertension during pregnancy. And this must be managed kasi pagka hypertensive, usually pag this may cause the pressure in the blood vessel or vascular pressure, and pwede mag-trigger po ito sa decreased blood flow. That may affect also the maternal to fetal circulation. Ngayon, dun sa 10 to 20%, 5 to 8% po sa mga pregnancies ay nagli-lead into pre-eclampsia. Ano naman po yung pre-eclampsia at eclampsia? Ang pre-eclampsia naman po ay increase ang blood pressure at meron na siyang findings ng protein sa ihi. So yun yung pinagkaiba ha. Kaya pagka mga ang patient ninyo ay nag-hypertension po, always have a primary diagnostic exam, urinalysis agad. Okay? So pag na-check yung urine, walang protein findings or no positive findings ng protein, then that is gestational hypertension. Pero you may be triggered pagka nakita nyo yung positive protein, ay ayan. You need to take into consideration po yung what you call this, pre-eclampsia pag may protein. Kasi kidney ito very important. Yun ang dapat natin i-monitor pag may protein. So, dapat walang findings talaga ng protein sa ihi. So, pag ang patient nyo naman ay hypertensive, may protein sa urinalysis or urine, may protein sa urine, nag-seizure, ang tawag doon, eclampsia. So let us now differentiate kung anong pinagkaiba ni pre-eclampsia at saka eclampsia. So meron tayong tinatawag na mild pre-eclampsia, severe pre-eclampsia, eclampsia. So ang pinagkaiba niya with the eclampsia is that of lahat ng symptoms ng pre-eclampsia, pero pag nadagdagan siya ng grand mal seizure, pag nag-seizure, that's already eclampsia. So ano naman pinagkaiba ng pre-eclampsia ng mild to severe? So obviously, the difference with mild and the severe is the blood pressure. Tandaan po ninyo, pag ang BP ay 160 to 100 na, in two occasions, twice yan, and nangyari yan. So, pre-eclampsia siya, which is severe. So, let's watch out na wag siyang mag-seizure kasi more complicated 'yon. Pag ang patient mo naman is having BP of 150, 140 over 90, pero hindi siya tumaabot ng 160, mild po yan. Okay? So, there's a need basically to have rest and monitor for any seizure po, ha? So, kasi mas yun yung pwedeng mag-trigger. Ito na po tayo. Pag severe po ang preeclampsia, the usual doctor's order po ay magnesium sulfate. Pero sabi natin nga kanina, it's category D kasi pwede siyang mag-cause ng positive evidence of adverse reaction sa baby. Ngayon, para malaman po natin kung halimbawa naman anong dapat natin i-check kanina? Dapat i-check yung deep tendon reflexes. Deep tendon reflexes. Pag walang deep tendon, ayun. So, medyo somehow do not risk to administer magnesium sulfate. Ang normal level or therapeutic level po ng magnesium sulfate is 4 to 7 milliequivalent per liter. Okay? With that 4 to 7 milliequivalent per liter po, pag lumagpas yan 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 hanggang pataas, pag 7.0 is normal. Okay? Pero pag 7.1 pataas or 7.05, nakita nyo na yan, mag-trigger na yan, it's already toxic effect. Ano naman po yung pwedeng mag-toxic effect? So pag nag-toxic effect, ano sabi natin? Ay mag-antidote tayo ng calcium gluconate. Ngayon, sabi nga natin 4 to 7. Pero pagka ang level po kasi ng toxicity ng magnesium sulfate ay umabot ng 10 to 15. Pag 10 to 15 ang effect niyan sa respiration. Pag 20 to 25 yung level ng calcium gluconate toxicity, cardiac arrest. Ganon basically mag-trigger ang magnesium sulfate. Kaya that's why it's very important to know the therapeutic level and the toxicity level. So ano naman po, pag maternal respiratory depression, ano naman po yung dapat ninyong antidote? Dapat po, maghanda po kayo ng antidote na naloxone hydrochloride or Narcan. That's maternal, ha? So, next po, pag cardiac arrest, obviously, ang dapat ihanda dyan ay epinephrine. So, kaya somehow careful tayo sa mga level lalo na pag sa board exam, very particular sila, minsan nilalagay talaga nila yung toxic level and it may divert your attention kung normal ba siya or hindi. So these are the common po na mga questions that have that are integrated in the board exam. So kung halimbawa naman walang magnesium sulfate, hanap tayo ng iba. So yung kung mapapansin po ninyo with the number 2 and number 3, ang pinaka-isa sa mga safe po ay yung category B. Okay? Methyl dopa. So, methyl dopa could be. So, yung nalalaman po natin when we classify the drugs, alam na po natin kung ano yung safe dun sa pwede. Sa category B, it's not the usual list talaga. Pero, if most common, careful tayo sa pag-administer. So, methyl dopa po ang pwede. So, ang concern naman po dito sa hydralazine, hydralazine naman po ay pwedeng ibigay, wag pong pag tumaas po sa 105 ang millimeters mercury po nito, wag po natin ibibigay doon. So, yun ang mga dapat ninyong itandaan, ha. Hydralazine are not given pag ang kanyang diastolic is 105 millimeters mercury pataas. So, medyo pag pre-eclamptic na. Kasi 90 to 100, diastolic ng 90 to 110 dapat eh. Pero pag tumaas na siya ng 104, 110, 115, ay, you need to you need to, yung 100 nga, ano na yan eh, dapat i-monitor na. So, metildo pa ang una. Category C, kailangan mong i-monitor ang diastolic pressure. Ang magnesium sulfate, kailangan i-monitor mo ang alin? Ang assess mo ng deep tendon reflexes, assess ang breathing, assess ang cardiac status. Next po, labetalol category C. So metildo pa lang yung nasa category B. So metildo pa lang ang pwede natin i-consider diyan. So ang labetalol from the term itself, the medication sa fix of olol, category C, ayan. So kung ang pasyente mo ay biglang bagsak ng blood pressure, hold the drug. Okay? Next. Ayan. Papasok na po tayo sa pain management. Okay. Ito namang sa pain management, usually ang concern dito is when you are attending to patient during labor. Okay? Ano ang pinagkaiba ng tatlong ito? What are the difference of analgesia, sedation, anesthesia? Okay? Analgesia, sedation, anesthesia. Okay. Pag analgesia po, pag nagtitake ba kayo ng analgesic, nawawala ba ang consciousness niyo? Hindi. Ang analgesia po ay nagiging insensible to pain pero hindi naglo-loss of consciousness. That's analgesia. Pag nakadinig naman kayo ng sedation, pag sinedate mo na yung pasyente, ang patient mo is still on a state lang ng nagdi-decrease yung response. Okay? Example, aware ka sa nangyayari. Aware ka sa nangyayari sa paligid mo. A state of diminished lang mental and physical responsiveness. So, sedated. Pag anesthesia, ang anesthesia naman ay loss of painful sensation, either loss ang consciousness or without loss of consciousness. Example, ang general anesthesia talaga loss of consciousness ito. Matutulog ka talaga dito. Pero yung ang spinal anesthesia are being managed pag ang ano siya abdominal pababa ang effect ng spinal anesthesia pag painless delivery. So that's why you're still aware of what's happening around. Kasi very important yan na once you ask the patient to bear down pag nag-contract, very important yon that the patient must still cooperate. So analgesia, sedation, anesthesia. Okay? So pasok na tayo sa mga analgesia and sedation. May mga situations kasi na eto na, ang mga lalo na sa mga first pregnancy, some of the mothers who will be in labor are in high anxiety level. Kaya the tendency is kailangan po natin ng kailangan po natin i-consider po pag nagli-labor ng pampakalma. Kaya nadidinig natin yung tranquilizer. Usually mga anti-anxiety ito at parang ito po ay binibigay at the first of labor. So secobarbital. So ang ibig sabihin nito category D. So ibig sabihin ni positive evidence ito as tranquilizer. So medyo careful po tayo sa pagbigay. So, pentobarbital. Okay, pentobarbital, short-acting barbiturates. So, pag sinabi yung barbiturates, tranquilizer yan. So, meaning it manages the anxiety. So, usually, ang binibigay po ang barbiturates lang at the early phase lang ng labor. Hindi po siya pwedeng ibigay at the last phase because pwedeng mag-cause ng effect yan sa baby. Yun yung isa sa mga tatandaan ninyo, ha? So other than this, ang patient po ay pwedeng magbigay ng promethazine. So ang promethazine po, category C. So pwedeng ito ang pwede nating ma-administer sa patient natin. Never give it subcutaneously. Lumabas ito sa board exam. Tandaan niyo ha, ang promethazine po, once given po, for intramuscular ay Z-track method. Ang purpose ng Z-track method, if you have encountered this in your fundamentals of nursing, pag Z-track method, this is to definitely prevent, ilalak para malak yun sa muscle at magkaroon ng unilateral absorption. And this could prevent po na magstay siya within the muscle tissues at mag-cause po siya ng irritation and may lead to necrosis or gangrenous. So kung gangrene po siya, pwede siya mag-lead into infection, necrosis, tissue death. So yan po ang tatandaan ninyo ha. Pag lumabas sa board exam, promethazine, if given intramuscularly, it must be on the Z-track method, not in subcutaneous administration. Okay, so hydroxyzine, so anxiolytic antiemetic. So ito yung mga tranquilizers na pwedeng ibigay during the labor pero somehow kung mapapansin niyo ang pinaka pwedeng ibigay natin dito is yung category, yung hindi nasa category D, itong promethazine at saka ito pong pwede nating ibigay ay hydroxyzine. Okay? So next po, when the patient is on the labor or during labor, ito na po yung pwedeng ibigay. Pagka ang kailangan lang talaga pagka severe pain ang pasyente, labor pain. Actually, ano nga as much as possible, the nurse must attend to the patient on a non-pharmacological measures. Pero pag ang patient po is in severe labor pain at hindi niya na matolerate yung pain, ito na po, pwede na tayong magbigay ng sedation, ng mild to moderate. So kaya nga narcotic agonist, so directly ang patient mo ay magkukos ng direct pain relief. So fentanyl citrate, yan pag nadinig yung fentanyl, morphine, ito yung mga opioids. So sabi ko nga sa inyo, this will cause the possibility that will direct its effect to the mother. However, this is used to treat pag fentanyl po ay mild to moderate, tandaan niyo ha. Pero pag morphine na po ay moderate to severe. Okay, moderate to severe. Ang tatandaan nyo lang dito, ang lahat po ng binibigay na opioid analgesic, ang dapat i-check ninyo ay ay respiratory rate at cardiac rate. Kasi as what I have mentioned, this may trigger specifically respiratory arrest at cardiac arrest. So, eto naman, may question po. Ayan, din question po, anesthesia spinal, may effect po ba like nagiging okay, ganito. May mga ganyang tanong. Actually, wala po itong epekto na makakalimutin. So, hindi po yan. So, that's why, pag nag-subside po ang anesthesia, dapat it goes back talaga sa full functioning po ang mother. Kaya pag nadidinig ninyo yan na nagiging makakalimutin because of the effect of the anesthesia, wala po siyang scientific basis. Okay? Unless nag-trigger po ang toxicity level ng isang anesthesia, that may consider a further evaluation kung naka-affect po yan sa cerebral functioning. On the perspective of the the mixed narcotic, pag sinabi natin mixed narcotic, ito na po yung minamanage mo na mismo yung talagang severe pain. Pero ito, ang usual na binibigay po dito, based from my experience ito pong nalbuphine hydrochloride or Novain. Kasi mas safe ito compared to butorphanol. Kaya among those narcotic agonists po sa analgesia and sedation, ang most po na na-encounter ko, I think, if I remember, during the labor, pag mga ano na yan, nasa severe pain, nalbuphine or Novain po. However, you need to consider pa rin and be prepared na pwedeng maka-effect din yan sa baby. Although the nalbuphine is considered as category B, safe ito for both, pero hindi siya makakaroon ng effect. Unlike sa butorphanol, pwedeng mag-cause din yan kung mag-drowsy si mother, pwedeng mag-passive response ang baby. So nalbuphine hydrochloride category B, tandaan po natin ito pagka if you are giving narcotic analgesic. Okay? So self-assessment exercises. A patient with severe preeclampsia is on magnesium sulfate. The laboratory report is 7 milliequivalent per liter. Which of these is the most appropriate initial nursing intervention? So, continue to monitor the patient because this level is therapeutic. Contact the healthcare provider and report. Prepare to administer 1 gram calcium gluconate. Turn the patient on her left side and administer 10 liters auto-basal nasal cannula. Okay, kung ang patient po ninyo ay nagdi-difficulty of breathing, wala naman first, tingnan muna natin yung 7 milli equivalent per liter. So ito yung mga question that I mentioned to you na ang 7 milli equivalent per liter po ay normal. So may gagawin ka bang intervention? So kung normal, the answer is letter A. Iko-continue mo lang to monitor kasi normal naman yung level. So kung ang pasyente mo naman ay nag-toxic level, prepare ka ng calcium gluconate kasi antidote siya. At kung ang pasyente mo ay nag-develop siya, kung 10 to 15 siya, respiratory, ito, and you need to turn the patient on the left side and administer oxygen by nasal cannula. So pag nag-difficulty of breathing. Okay, next question. So the nurse assess a patient in preterm labor who is receiving magnesium sulfate, what is the finding of most concern? Lethargy, pag nag-drowsy, feeling warmth, loss of patellar reflexes, positive clonus bilaterally. The answer is loss of patellar reflexes. Ano yung sabi ko sa inyo? Pag walang deep tendon reflexes, very crucial ito sa patient who is experiencing magnesium sulfate toxicity. Okay? So, lethargy, feeling of warmth, these are normal pag ang magnesium sulfate pag in-administer ito, careful kayo kasi nagti-trigger yan sa phlebitis. Very warmth yan. Pag dumaan yan sa ugat at pwedeng mag-cause din yan ng phlebitis. So, next po. Next question. So, the patient has been receiving magnesium sulfate for 2 hours to treat severe preeclampsia. Patient is temp 37.3, 88 pulse, respiration 14, blood pressure 138/71, may patellar reflexes, negative ang ankle clonus. What is the priority nursing intervention? If you will notice in the vital signs, normal lahat. So, what you will do? So, magbibigay ka ba ng magnesium sulfate? Discontinue magnesium sulfate, continue healthcare, or continue to monitor the patient. So, answer is continue lang. Why? Kasi normal ang lahat ng vital signs mo. And basically you will not give stat or emergency magnesium sulfate simply because wala naman tayo toxicity level. Next question. Young adolescent gravida 1-0 admitted to labor and delivery with preterm labor at 29 weeks gestation. Sabi natin 24 to 37 weeks, di ba? Pwedeng select all that apply. So kung for example, ang pasyente po ay nagpi-preterm labor, ano po ang mga dapat gawin? May mga question po kayo in the NCLEX or foreign examination that you will select all that apply. So alin dito ang mga ano po? So ang patient mo ay magbibigay ng glucocorticoid kasi preterm labor at pwedeng mag-preterm delivery siya. So para ma-manage yung surfactant sa lungs, ano pa yung pwede? Bed rest at the left lateral position to facilitate good oxygen. Next, ang pasyente po na nag-trigger po on preterm labor ay pwedeng ma-dehydrate. So kasi nga nagko-contract siya. So kailangan po magbolus ng intravenous fluid at alam po natin na dapat po nating bigyan siya ng ma-prevent ang uterine contraction or tocolytic. Hindi po tayo magbibigay ng antihypertensive because we don't have in the question pre-eclampsia, eclampsia, gestational hypertension, and no information related to blood pressure. Okay. So, drugs for pain control during labor anesthesia. So, I think so we do only have 3 minutes to go. Okay, magko-close na naman tong Zoom. But anyway, ganito po. Pasok po tayo sa anesthesia. Ang pinagkaiba po ng anesthesia sa analgesia, ang analgesia hindi nagko-cause ng consciousness. Sedation, the patient may just have loss of the ano lang, sensation lang siya. Pero ang anesthesia with or without loss of consciousness. So bakit po during pregnancy ay nagko-cause po ng pain? Sa visceral pain, dalawa yung pain na patient will experience. The visceral pain and somatic pain. When the cervix and the uterus is as contracting at ang cervix mo na-stretch to open or yung uh, nagtitining yung lining ng cervix, na-stretch yung sympathetic fibers, lalo na yung nerve. Ang tawag doon, visceral pain. Pag ang pressure na ay nag-create doon sa mismong opening, okay, opening because na-stretch yung vaginal area at yung mismong perineum ay nai-stretch, ang presenting part, ang tawag doon, somatic pain. Clear tayo doon ha? Kung related sa uterus, sa cervix, yung nai-stretch po, yung muscle and nerve fibers niya, visceral pain. Pag dun sa presenting part na, sa vaginal at saka sa perineal, ang tawag doon ay somatic pain. Now, alam naman po natin for local anesthetics at regional blocks, we have the basically for local po bakit po tayo nagko-cause ng bakit po tayo nagbibigay ng local anesthesia? Kasi may mga instances yung because of yung presenting part, kunyari masyadong malaki yung baby, magko-cause yan ng kailangan mag-need ng episiotomy kasi pwedeng mag-tear yung perineal tissues. Kaya mag-create ng episiotomy para hindi mag-create ng pressure. And i-repair yon through episiotomy. So kailangan ng local anesthesia. Ang regional naman ay pwedeng ibigay siya via the spine. Ang effect ng spinal anesthesia is abdominal bababa. Ang general anesthesia ay buo. And that could be during the cesarean section. Okay? So I think again, I'm really sorry. I may end up to this on the regional anesthesia. And we will continue po and we'll have break for 15 minutes. We have already few slides na lang po to complete the pharmacology for the pregnancy and lactation. And we will go back. I'll post again the another what you call this, another Zoom platform. Okay? So thank you very much.